So you guys would have started some practical on database. So we're gonna cover a little theory behind database, some of the concepts, some of the terms that you need to know, you need to understand for you to appreciate the practical part also. So what we're going to be looking at is chapter 8.1 today. We're going to be looking at the introduction to database management. So what is database management? That is what we'll be looking at today. What are the types of database and what are the advantages and disadvantages of those types of database? Why would we choose one over the other? Even though one might be the best, why would we still choose the worst? Sometimes daily we make that decision. We have the best option in front of us and we go and choose the worst. So we're going to be starting with manual versus computerized databases. Did you guys hear that term already? Manual database, computerized database?
Yes, sir.
Anybody wants to share what they remember? What can you remember about a manual database or a computerized? What is it? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? Give me a second. I think somebody's inside. In the meantime, y'all can gather your thoughts. Yes, sorry about that. So, did anyone gather your thoughts? What is manual? What is computerized? I'm seeing something in the chat. Manual database have a horrible taste. You tasted it already? Most times they're undercooked, quite raw. Computerized is a certified shells. Are you using an analogy, Malik? Because it's possible that we could think of it that way. No? Alright, so a manual database is basically a database that, or before we get into that, does anyone know what the word manual means? Someone check if you know what is the definition of the word manual, or if you have to check for the definition, let me know You have to do it by yourself. Very good. So manual means that you have to do something by yourself. You have to go and physically do it by yourself. No one is helping you. No technology is helping you. You have to go and operate or carry out the instructions by yourself. So a manual database, so manual means that. Now, what is a database? Anybody has a definition for that? What is a database? Or should I give you one? Data stored, very good, data stored. So I'm gonna give you guys a definition for database. Take this here, a definition for database. A database is an organized collection of stored data. A database is an organized collection of stored data. So, as Sharmini mentioned, data that is stored. So, a database is basically something that you are storing data. Just the term database. It means that you are storing data. And there are different types of database, and they basically represent how you are storing the data. So, yes, the database is storing the data, but how are you storing the data? How? You're either storing it manually or you are storing it computerized. So that's how the two types of database comes into play here. You have the manual database and you have the computerized database. So another key part of the definition also is the word organize. A database not only stores data, but it also organizes that data. So it's not that the data is random. It's just stored anyhow. You just collect a set of data and you just store it however you feel like. It's not like that. You have to organize that data. So for example, can anyone give me an example of a manual database? I'm not sure if this was mentioned to you already. Manual, you can write it on paper like CXC Children Info. Very good. That's an example there. Any other examples? Any other examples of a manual database? What do you think about your notebook? Would you consider that a manual database?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Your notebooks has information. It has notes inside of it. And if you think about it, does your notes have an order? Is it organized?
Yes, sir.
Well, it can only be organized unless you guys organize it. But when the teacher teaches you, he or she would normally teach you in an organized manner. They can teach you topic 1, then topic 2, and then topic 3, and continue in. So, your notes are going to be in that logical order. So, your notes in your book is like a manual database. You're storing data on that topic, that subject. But remember also that database, it is organized. It is an order to it. There's an order based on the topics, based on the subject areas. Another example is the school, the office. Did you guys know the office has information on all of you? Your name, address, parents' name, phone number, and all of that? You guys know that?
Yes, sir.
Right. And where are they storing this information? where does the office store this information? In a file. And that file is usually stored in a cabinet, right? So a file folder, your information is filled onto a form, just like you see here, this cabinet here. So your information is on this piece of paper here, and then that paper that has all your information is going to be placed into a folder, and then is going to be stored inside of this cabinet. So that there is another example of a manual database. Now, will this database that the school is storing your data on, will it have any order? Will it be organized? It should be. If you were to organize it, how would you organize it? Name first. Very good. So you would organize it based on the name. So maybe first name, and you do that alphabetically, or last name, and you store that alphabetically. So it's always going to have some sort of order. So whatever database you have is always going to have some sort of organized manner in which the data is stored. So those are two examples of manual. And obviously, computerized basically means you're using a computer. But can you guys think of any example of a computerized database? Same thing, different way. But what was an example of that different way?
Sorry, if shop owners they keep like a record of how many goods they got, how many they sell, all in everything.
Good.
They could put it on a computer
Good.
through
Good.
Excel.
Exactly. That's what I was looking for. Excel spreadsheet. So the data for that business, what items they have, what items they're gonna sell, they're gonna type that data. But where are they gonna type it? They're gonna type it on the computer, and they're gonna type it into a software. So you guys learned how to use Excel last term, where it has rows and columns where you can type in your data. So this is a simple manner of storing data. So it can be considered a simple database. And they're actually, now this software isn't designed specifically for database, but yet still it can be used to store data. But there are software that are designed to be used as a database, and that is Microsoft Access. So this is the software which we'll be learning about this term. It's a software that is designed specifically to create databases. Now, we're talking about computerized database. Some examples of them. So we said spreadsheet. Is there any other simpler example? Think of this cabinet, and we mentioned your notes being in your book, and we consider that a database. Now, what would be a very simple database on your computer?
Notepad.
Notepad. Okay, and if you store information inside of it, Jikia said my files on your phone or computer. That's a very good one. That's actually the one I was looking for. Files on your phone or your computer. Now that is a good example of a database also. Now all of you have music on your phone. You have music on your computer. And how do you organize those music? You would put them in folders, right? But what would you name those folders? Those music.
Something related there.
Something related. So
Like
maybe
music.
what is that?
Something related like the music. If you have like rock music, you put rock in that. I think.
Very good. So you can name the folder the genre of music, whether it's rock, whether it's K-pop, whether it's indie, whatever the case may be, or you would name it the artist name, so that you know inside of this folder it only has music related to this specific artist. So that there is an even simple example of a computerized database. Even what I have right now, all of your notes can be considered a database because it is storing your notes in this logical order. So, for example, I have one of those music folders. Where's my music? So I have all of these music files here. I have my mix, and then I have all of these folders here with different names, and I know how I would have organized my music. So that there is another example of a database, a computerized database. So are we clear on what is the difference between a manual and a computerized database?
Yes, sir.
Great. And are we clear on what is the definition of a database?
Yes, sir.
Great. So it's an organized collection of stored data. Please remember that organized part. So let's get into some other information now. Um, let's have a reader. Let's start at the bottom. Suresh, could you read that paragraph for us?
Yes, sir. Nowadays, computerized databases are in widespread use, and they help people to quickly find the information that they want. They also vary in size and use depending on what is required. Small databases, such as those that keep information about a music collection, can be run on a personal computer at home. Larger databases now play an important role in how our society works. Industrial, commercial, and public organizations use databases to maintain their business and services.
Very good. So we have different sizes of databases. And the size basically depends upon what is the need of that database. So, for example, if the need is just store information for our personal need, for example, our pictures, our videos, our music, then it's going to be a small database. We don't have, because music don't really take up that much space. But if you have a lot of music, sometimes it can, but it's still gonna be small compared to businesses, compared to organizations. So yes, your music database might take up 1 gig, 2 gig, sometimes 10, 20, 30 gig bytes of data. But organizations, their databases are not going to take up gigabytes. They're going to take up what size?
Sir, megabytes?
Terabytes.
Megabytes? What's that, Naishal?
Terabytes.
Terabytes. Terabytes of data. Megabytes are actually smaller than gigabytes. So it's bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, then petabyte. So businesses and organizations, they are going to be their database are going to be taking up terabytes of data, sometimes even petabytes of data, very large amounts compared to your small database that you would have on your phone or your computer. So depending on the need of the database, it can have different sizes and it would have different uses. So there's personal uses for database, and then there's database for industrial uses, commercial, public, business, so many uses of data. So let's continue. Sharmini, can you continue the reading for us? Other computerized. Sharoni? Shalon?
Okay, it's me, sir.
I haven't called for you yet, Emmanuel. Shayon?
Other computerized databases include flight information systems and database systems in public libraries. Examples of how we use these large databases include booking holidays and airline tickets, using an online store to search a range of millions of products of a particular item, accessing a police computer database with requests from police officers who want information about criminals, suspects, or stolen items.
Very good. So, we have some other examples here of databases. Um, Airports, they would use database to keep track of their flights so that they ensure that they're not conflicted. Because remember, they have to deal with a lot of persons requesting flights, a lot of arrivals, departures, and so on. So they have to keep track of all of that data. So they would use a database for that. Libraries. Um, some libraries today, they're moving to actual digital libraries. They're moving away from physical books, and they would make use of a computerized library. But even a physical library, that would still be a database there. Um, Now, what's some examples of large databases? We have a few examples here. Hotels, or even services that allow you to um, book rooms, book hotels, book events, and so on for these places. Um, Airports, once again, for you to file patient files in a hospital. Yes, very good. Especially if it's a large hospital, it's going to be storing all of its patient records. So all the personal information about that patient and all the medical information that they would have received. Yes, all of that will be stored. Remember, you keep data so as you can use it in the future to basically help yourself, help the person, help your business, help the organization, whatever the case may be. You're always keeping data. That's actually why um, whatever device you're using, they actually always take in your data. You ever notice if you go on Amazon or eBay and you type in something that you like, say you're looking for something to buy. Maybe you're looking for some sort of toy or you type in a Samsung phone or you type in a tablet and you ever go somewhere else and you notice that same item advertising. And have you ever noticed that? No one?
No, sir.
It's actually good if you guys never experienced that because that means you're not being tracked. But usually that happens. When you go and search for an item on a certain site, they would share that data with another company. So, for example, if I search for something on Amazon and I open my Yahoo email, I would actually see that item pop up as an ad telling me to buy it from Amazon. So, Amazon is actually taking that data that is stored and sharing it with other companies. And that's what companies today do. They take your data, store it in these databases, so that they can use it later on. Because it's all about making money today based on your data. Um, so we're looking at examples of large databases. We have booking for holidays, airline tickets, online store. What would be some examples of online store? Y'all don't shop online?
Nope.
That's,
No, sir.
that's sad. That's sad. So, but y'all never heard about Amazon, eBay, Walmart?
Sir, we're not that far under the rocks.
Yes,
We
sir, but
know
you
about
already
them,
told us.
sir.
Yes, those,
Didn't seem
right. Those are all. I'm hearing you very low, Nigel. Yeah, but those are all.
Sorry, I said that
Yeah, go ahead.
would be bad because you already said Amazon before, and it didn't
Ah.
seem right to say.
Okay. So Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Etsy. There's so many more. Pokemon Center that offer their services online so that you can go and purchase items, and they have to have a database. Shayan said Shine. What is Shine?
Sir, it's a online store to shop.
Oh. So yeah, this is another one here also. Hope nothing bad comes up. Yes, let me close that before anything does.
Sir, it's not Shine, it's Shein.
Sheen. So yes, this is an example of an online store. You have sales, days hurry up and make your purchases. 32 minutes remaining. That's actually the end of the class. Yes, but those stores, they have a lot of items. They have a lot of clothes, they have a lot of electronics, and they have to store all of that data. What are they going to store it in? A database. The police department, they have to store information on persons as they make as they commit a crime. So the person's personal information, what crime they would have committed, all the information on them, so that they can keep track of those information. What are they going to use? A database. Now remember, database does not only refer to computerized database, could be manual, because right here in Guyana, a lot of these large companies, they're still using manual database. Um, some parts of the Guyana police force, they're still using manual database. NIS, SAINS, for instance, they're still using a manual database. So even though the organization is large, some of them still use manual database, even though they can use a computerized database. And anybody wondering why they haven't switched over yet to computerized? Did that question popped up in anybody's head?
Sir, because while doing that, sometimes they can lose some of the information.
Very good. Very good reason. And that's actually what we're going to look at later. The advantages and disadvantages of computerized database. We're going to be looking at why some persons haven't switched over as yet to computerized databases. So let's continue. Our next reader, Robert.
Although spreadsheets and databases have similar features, there are three main differences. Databases are more often used for application with a large amount of text, whereas spreadsheet can handle complex numerical calculations more easily. Very large applications with thousands of entries are more often handled in databases. They, the way they work in the background is different. When you work in a spreadsheet, you view the data you enter, you do the, you view the data you are entering. In a database, you only see the data you are entering at the time. You have to request a report or different display to see more of the information.
Right. So, as I mentioned earlier, even though your spreadsheet, yes, you can use it as a database, but it's not designed to be used as a full out database. It's not designed for that. So you have softwares that are designed to be a database, and that is Microsoft Access. So it's important to remember what is the difference between what you learned last term spreadsheet versus what you're going to learn this term, spreadsheet. What is the difference? When you want to carry out a lot of calculations, you would have learned that last term, you're going to use a spreadsheet. If you're going to do a lot of calculations, you're going to use a spreadsheet. Okay. And if you're going to need to store a lot of data, a lot of text, that is where your database comes into play. So yes, you can store a lot of text in a spreadsheet, but I'm not sure if anybody ever tried it. It starts to slow down a bit because unless your computer is very powerful, it won't be able to process all of that data at one time quickly. So that's why you leave spreadsheet to handle calculations, and when you want to store a lot of data, a very large amount of data, you would use a database access. Now, the other point, databases, they're used for thousands of entries. So once again, it allows you to enter a lot of data. Now this part here, the third point, it might be a little difficult for you guys to understand because you gotta use database first to be able to understand this last point here, whereby you view the data as you're entering in spreadsheet, but in database you only see the data that you're entering. When you use a database, when you use a spreadsheet, if you notice, you can actually see all of the data. There is no other place that you can go. Yes, you can go to other sheets, but you're seeing all the data at once. So that's what they mean there. That in spreadsheet, you can view the data you're entering. But in a database, it's a little different. In a database, I'm actually going to open a blank one. If you notice, it's different from the spreadsheet. We have table out here. We can add more table, but it's not an easy way to go back and forth between those tables. And yes, you can have those multiple tables open, but then you're gonna have other means of having data, and to see all of that data at once, it won't be possible unless you create a report. So the important point to remember or to take note of is that in a spreadsheet, you can enter all of the data in one location. I can enter all of my data in one location. So for example, if I want information about cars, I can enter it in that column. If I want information about vans, I can enter it in that column. If I want information on trucks, I can enter it into those columns, into these columns here. And it won't affect anything. But the way how database works is that I should not that I cannot, please know the words, it's not that I cannot, but when you're creating a database, you should not put all of the data in one location. So what I basically mean is that each table must be its own topic, its own personal topic. For example, table 1 should be about cars alone. Table 2 should be about trucks alone. Table 3 should be about vans alone. So each table should be about its own topic, and that's going to have create multiple tables. You're actually going to create a lot of tables. And say for instance, just like in spreadsheets, if you want to see all of that information in the same location as you're seeing it right now, in a database you cannot, because it's going to be in different tables. That is where the report comes into play. You have to create a report that's going to show all of that information in one location. So it's a bit technical. Over time, as you begin to use database, you'll understand it a bit more. It's going to be a bit clearer. But just that a spreadsheet, you can view all the data you're entering because imagine the spreadsheet as being wide open. You can see everything, but in a database, you can only see basically on what table you're on. And if you want to view everything in one location, you have to create this report here in order to do that. Does anyone have any questions?
No, sir.
All right. All right, so let's move on to what is a DBMS. And Rizwan, you could read that for us.
A database management system, DBMS, is the term for any program that handles the storage, modification, or retrieval of data, as well as controlling who has access to the information. Database programs such as Microsoft Access, Lotus Approach, FileMaker Pro, and Coral Paradox are available on personal computers and allow people to create their own database at home, school, or work.
Very good. So, as the paragraph mentions, a DBMS refers to a program that allows you to store data, modify that data, and retrieve the data. It even allows you to control who has access to the data. So, for example, I could say only Karishma should be able to access this data, or only Robert should be able to access this data. So, it can control who can view the data, or it can even control how much of the data can be viewed. All of that is possible through the database management system. So what are some examples of those programs? As mentioned already, Microsoft Access, and the new ones, well, not new to you guys, Lotus Approach, FileMaker Pro, and Coral Paradox. So this is important to remember. What are some examples of database software? What are some examples of DBMS? So if you hear database management system, it refers to a program that you use to create a database. Or if I say list an example of a database software, I'm referring to the same thing also. Or in your exam, they might even give you a question like, which of the following is not a database software? So you would have to remember which is a database software and be able to select which is not. In addition to that, that was another reason as to why I brought up the different sizes of database. It's important to understand that almost anything could be considered a database once it's an organized collection of data. So that collection of music files that you have on your phone, that you have on your computer, can be considered a database. So I think I've seen questions like that on exam papers, whereby they ask you if the following is an example of a database, a collection of music, or so on. So yeah, it's important to know what can be a database, what cannot, what form it can take, basically. Great. Are you guys following so far?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
We're going to be looking at the advantages and disadvantages of a computerized database. Why do persons use a manual database? Why do they switch over to computerized? Or Why do some persons still use manual databases? So what are the advantages? First, so remember we're looking at computerized database. So what is the advantage of a computerized database? So the first is that it can save enormous amounts of paper as well as filing space. So we can save paper and physical space. Um, have any of you ever went into the office and saw how many cabinets are in the office?
Yes, sir.
How many? Or was that a no?
About three.
Three?
There's about three.
Yeah. So there's two outside. There's actually two outside. One on the left, one on the right. And there's actually one in the HM's office. And there's another one in the DHM office. And each department will actually have their own cabinet. It might not be that large, but they would have somewhere they're storing paper-based information. So if you notice, the fact is we're looking at those cabinets take up space. They take up physical space. Now imagine this is a school. Imagine if it's a hospital. If it's a large business and they were using manual database, then that physical database, that manual database, is going to take up a lot of space. It's going to take up a lot of paper because you had to print, you had to store in that folder, take up a lot of cardboard, and put in that cabinet and take up a lot of space. Manual databases can even get so large that they even take up an entire building. Let me see if you can see an example. More examples. Yeah, but that's why persons, companies, organizations, they would use computerized database because they're going to save a lot of paper and they're going to save a lot of space, physical space. The second advantage, data can be easily entered by keyboard and scanner. So you can easily type in your data. You can easily pull up a spreadsheet like this here, type in whatever you need, save it, share it, do whatever you want with it. It's very quick and easy to use a computerized database. Compared to a paper-based database or manual, you got to get a form, write the information, or even you still got to type it, but you're going to print it and then store it, go to the cabinet, open the cabinet, look for the location where you have to store it, because remember you got to put it in that organized order, so it's going to take time and energy there. Third advantage, the speed. Data can be found, calculated, and sorted very quickly. So the data, we can look for the data quickly, because all of you know that most of these software, they have a search option. So you can easily pull up that search option and you can type in what you're looking for. Funds, and it quickly finds that word here. So with computerized database, you can quickly find data, quickly calculate that data, quickly store it. You can open this file, type in what you need, save the file right away. Whereas a manual database, that is going to take up time. So we covered those three there. Our fourth advantage, data can easily be changed and updated. Now, say for example, the manual database that is in school. Say on the form, somebody accidentally put female instead of male. and they put that in the filing cabinet. It's on your record. What would they have to do to change that? What would the person have to do to change that? Or even to spell your name wrong, what would the person have to do? Would they have to go and look for the record? They gotta sort through all that list, all of the information, go through that specific order, look for if it starts with J, go through the J section, go into that folder, look for the file, and yes, maybe you can scratch the information. But say for instance, it's a little bit more technical. A lot of information on this document, it was wrong. You gotta go and change this entire document now. So you either gotta go and type it back over, or you have to let the person write it back over. Say for example, maybe it's a letter or something. So that is with a manual database, it would take time to change. Whereas a computerized database, it's very easy to change the data. The fifth advantage, data needs to be entered only once, yet it could be presented many different ways. A whole range of different queries and reports can be produced. Comparing back to that form, how many ways can you present a form? I'm talking about like this here, a form like this here. How many ways can you present this here? One, two, three. How many ways? Now I was gonna at least try.
Sir, one way, sir.
One way. There's only one way you can present it, because could you alter this paper?
No, sir.
No. The only thing you can do is crush it up and you can get this figure, then you gotta throw it away. Or you fold it up, you make a plane, and then you fly it away. That's all you can basically do. But a piece of paper is only one way. With software now, with a computerized database, you can change the way that the data is presented. You can change the way that you are looking at the data. For example, spreadsheet. We learned how to create graphs and charts and so on. So you can create reports, you can create graphs, you can create charts, you can create other elements where you can present the data differently. The other advantage, data can be checked upon entry. So you enter the data, you can check it right away. You can see that somebody typed in something wrong. You can make the change right away. Whereas if it was this form here, if somebody spelled the name wrong, they spelled the email wrong, they have to go and do over the entire form. The other advantage, passwords can be set to allow access only to those with permission to the database. So if I only want Jakia to look at the database, I could only allow her. Or if I don't want her to look at it, I could block her from the database. The other advantage of a computerized database, the data structure of a database can be changed. You can add new fields. Even after the database has been created, a paper-based system would have to be restarted from scratch. Now, looking at this paper form here, if you want to make a change to it, what would you have to do? If you want to make a change to this form, what do you have to do?
Replace a different type.
Somebody said something, but it's very low.
Replace the different.
Still very low.
Like for combination to change the last name and swap places.
All right, good try, but it's still very low. I didn't get to hear anything. But if you want to make any changes to this document, obviously, you have to go and recreate this entire document. Say, for instance, you don't even have the soft copy of it. You don't have it on the computer, and you want to maybe add in a middle name. There's only first name and last name. You want to add in middle name now. You have to go and alter this entire document, recreate this entire document. Whereas a computerized database, you can easily make changes. You can add in different columns. Like for example, I could add another column between here. I now have two columns between here. I can add another column here. I can add another row. I can quickly change the information and the layout. Another advantage, data can be imported and exported. We learned how to import and export last term using spreadsheet. So if you have data in one file, like for example this file, you can transfer it over into another file. Another advantage, a database file can be automatically linked to others. So say for instance there's some information in here that another program can use. You can actually link those files together and they will be able to see the information in each other's file. So an example of that, you're actually going to learn about this later on, how we link files together. An example is, say for instance you want to send out a lot of letters. Say you have 100 letters to send out. Are you going to type all 100 address and all 100 names on that each 100 letter? Whereas you could have like a database where you can type out all of those name, address, and so on, and you link it to the letter. So it automatically puts that information on the letter. You don't have to go and type it back yourself. So that there is an example of linking those files together. And then lastly, databases can be shared with other users if the computer is part of a local or wide area network. This includes the internet. So you can easily share the database. It's not stored in a central location in a cabinet and only one person can view the file at a time. You go in the cabinet, only one person can look at that file at a time. With a computerized database, anyone on the computer or anyone that is shared with would be able to see that database. Now, what are the disadvantages? So basically, why do persons not switch over to a computerized database? Why do they still use the manual database? So we're going to look at the disadvantages of the computerized. So why do they stick with manual? Because one, computers and peripherals, they can be expensive. You gotta buy a high-end computer, you gotta buy a lot of computers, a lot of devices, a lot of peripheral devices, and that can take up a lot of money. So organizations that don't have that money is gonna stick with a manual database. Two, if the computer or computer network is not working, then you cannot use the database. Say the computer crash, there goes your database. If the network that you're using to access the database is not working, then obviously you can't see the database or use it also. 3. Security is very important, as some people may attempt to get access to the confidential information, sometimes by illegally hacking into the program or data. So it's much more easier to get somebody's information now because it's on a computer. You can easily hack into the computer and steal that person's information. 4. Disadvantage: the database file can be corrupted or infected by a virus. And this can lead the file to either not working, or in some cases, the database may not work at all. So that's why they would have to make a backup of the database. So viruses, they can either make the database stop working, destroy the data, and so on. Another disadvantage: there is often a limit to the size of a database file. So yes, we can type a lot of data in here. Yes, we can type a lot of data in this database also, but there's a limit to how much data we can put in that single file. So that's a disadvantage there. The other disadvantage: some databases can be complicated to use. And that's actually a main reason why persons haven't switched over to computerized database, because they don't know how to use the software. For example, I'm sure a lot of you, when you open this software, you don't know what to do with it. And I'm sure some of you still don't know what to do with it. Is that true? Or all of you already mastered it? So some persons, they don't know how to use that software. You can easily open a spreadsheet, you just type anywhere, it's simple. You open, you see a lot of empty spaces, you just type anywhere you feel like. But the database, why is there tables? What is with these tabs? What am I supposed to do with it? A person might not know right away what to do with the database software. So they have to be trained as to how to use it. So that's another disadvantage there. The other disadvantage: some databases require much time to be spent on staff training. And that can be costly because you got to train these persons to use the software. That takes up time and money. And then lastly, data can be stored incorrectly. So obviously, a person typing, they could mistype, or something happened and they typed in the wrong data, then the incorrect data is going to be stored. So that there is the advantages and disadvantages of a computerized database. Are you guys clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so these questions here, you guys are going to do them for next class's homework. Ensure you complete them. So in review, we looked at what is a database. Remember, a database is an organized collection of data, stored data. We have two types of database: manual and computerized. Manual refers to storing the data physically. Computerized refers to storing the data digitally. We looked at what are some examples of small databases, large databases. Why do persons use database? What is the difference between a spreadsheet and a database? What is a DBMS? And then lastly, what is the advantages and disadvantages of a computerized database? So if you guys don't have any questions on anything we looked at today, that is going to be the end of today's class. Enjoy the rest of the day.
You too, sir. Bye.